Hey everyone, it's Debbie from emotionallysensitive.com. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. And I'm here with a topic about accountability and borderline personality disorder or having BPD traits. Because as a person in recovery from BPD, I often post really encouraging, hopeful, positive messages to people that have BPD traits as well as to those who love them. And occasionally I will get a comment, which happened recently, of someone really getting angry about this and saying, hey, my ex had BPD and he or she was abusive, and how am I supposed to have compassion and empathy for someone, even if they went through a lot as a child or in young adulthood, for them to go on and develop something serious like BPD? How can you expect me to be okay with that and say, oh, you're an innocent victim and you shouldn't be held accountable for your behavior? I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. And in fact, we should be held accountable for our behavior just like everyone else. The thing to keep in mind, though, is someone who has BPD traits is usually not intentionally trying to hurt someone else. They don't know any other way. They don't have the skills to act in a manner that is appropriate, or they may be afraid that if they try to get their needs met in an appropriate way, they won't get met. Because that's what they experienced during the developmental years of their childhood. They came to expect that they can expect to have their needs met by acting normally and by acting appropriately. So you might see some behaviors occasionally or more frequently, and I'm not saying this in a judgmental way because I have been there. I myself have had difficulty with maladaptive behaviors and trying to get my needs met in unhealthy ways. So I've been there myself. I understand. But you might see things like manipulative behavior. You might see things like threats, self-harm threats. You might see things, which you should take seriously, by the way, because it's no joking matter. And even if there's been threat after that, it's still something to take seriously. You might see sarcasm. You might see lying. You might see jealousy. All of these things that come up for people who have these traits and have this disorder, uh, just because of what has happened in their development and their fear around being left or rejected or abandoned or not being good enough or not being worthy of having their needs met, and a lot of times not having had it modeled how to do that in a way that is acceptable. Now, having said that, if someone is abusive, that is not acceptable. And that is not something that I say, oh, you should have empathy for that person. They went through a lot, so it's okay that they abuse you. No, it isn't. It's not okay for any human being to abuse any other human being. And so that person does need to be accountable for that behavior. But I'm celebrating my birthday tomorrow. I'm turning 39. And it took me a long time to get to the point where I became all about accountability, all about accepting that where I was wasn't working, accepting that there were things that I had to change in order to have a life that was worth living, in order to have relationships, meaningful, lasting relationships with other healthy people. And yes, I too had a lot of behaviors, and I expected to be able to have people excuse me, and I tried to explain it away. Even before I even knew I had BPD, I would say, I'm so sorry, I'm so messed up, I have mental health issues, I'm this, I'm that, I can't control myself. I've been through a lot, I didn't mean it, I'm sorry. And that was genuine at that time, and that was all I knew. I didn't know any better. So as Maya Angelou has said, when you know better, you do better. So should we have compassion and empathy for people who have BPD and BPD traits who engage in unhealthy behaviors? I say yes. Should people who do things that hurt other people be held accountable for their behaviors, whether they have any mental health diagnosis or not, I say yes. And so when I make these videos about being compassionate and telling people to have compassion for themselves and to show empathy for themselves, or to encourage family members or spouses to do so as well, this is not about excusing behaviors. It's about understanding behaviors and then people making choices that they need to make about setting their own personal limits and boundaries and doing what they need to do to stay safe and stay healthy and take care of themselves. It's not about excusing it. It is about asking people to think about it a bit as to where it's coming from, but it's not about you allowing yourself to be repeatedly mistreated. Please do take care of yourself. So I hope that makes sense. I hope to see you guys next week. Signing up for my class. Doors open late next week for my new online DBT class where I teach you guys everything I learned that essentially helped me to personally overcome borderline personality disorder and no longer meet the criteria. And now it's just my passion to teach. I keep it real. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say we're a bunch of innocent angels and that we never do anything that's offensive or upsetting or unskillful, because that's just not true. Even in recovery, we have challenges. Even in recovery, we have to work hard when we get emotionally dysregulated or something happens, and that's all part of life, and it's especially intense for those of us who are emotionally sensitive or who have BPD traits. So that is my input on the topic, and I look forward to any feedback you have or any questions. Thank you guys so much. See you over at emotionallysensitive.com and in the next video. Bye for now.